And
Thanks, man.
Cut.
Have fun.
Yep.
Sick.
Episode.
Thanks, Joel.
Episode 2. In Lao, song is 2.
Yeah.
That's appropriate, isn't it?
So song 2
Yeah.
is song.
Yeah. Episode 2. Here we are. Audio boys. Mitch, what's up, my man?
Dude.
Feeling good?
Yeah, always.
Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, man. Same. Mention this.
How's your week? How's things?
We're going to do sponsors first?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
shit.
Let's
We
get
better
the-
do the show
should-
properly,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
This is a proper show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did them last time. It's your turn.
Oh. Now I'm on the spot.
Yeah. All right. I'm
got me,
on the
you got
spot.
me.
Cool. Our
Good.
first sponsor is Tommirock. As always, we're in Tommirock's podcast studio. Very grateful to be here. Thank you, guys. And our other podcast sponsor is.
Musos Corner.
Yep.
Yep.
Always.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
So, how are you, man?
I'm good.
Haven't seen you in a week. How's
Yep.
things? Same
Doing
stuff?
good. Yeah.
What,
Been down a big rabbit hole this week.
what do you mean doing?
Clippers.
What?
Clippers.
Clippers?
Yeah.
All right. Give
Went
it to
down
me.
a big rabbit hole on clipping.
Yeah. What started this?
Two things.
Yeah.
There was a very controversial YouTuber that said clippers are, either bad
Are we allowed to
or
pull this
had
video
a-
up?
Yeah, I mean we can.
Yeah. Do we want to though?
I don't
We
know.
don't need to, though.
We don't need
Yeah,
to.
okay, cool.
If you're on the YouTube space, you know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's probably better not to.
Yep.
We don't want to negative.
Yeah.
We're not
trying to
about
name
bringing.
and shame anybody.
Yeah, and we're not about bringing negativity to people
No.
or anything really like that. Anyway, but it made me think about it, and then there was a lot of discussion about clippers being used while I was overseas recently.
Oh, when you're at Nam?
Yeah. Nam.
Nam? My phone's fucking
There's a
up, man.
Nam. Yeah, you'll get crucified for that.
Vietnam flashbacks.
Yeah.
Nam.
Nam.
Sweet.
Yeah. And then it's just been a conversation. It's something I've asked you about as well.
Yes.
And it
I
was
love
kind
clippers.
of, for me, it was the last thing that I needed in my mix template where I just wasn't getting enough loudness. I needed something to control the dynamics of kicks and snares.
Dude,
when I
that's
want them
funny you
nice
say
and
that
forward.
because when I found clippers, I felt like it was the missing piece to the recipe.
Yep. It was like me not adding enough salt.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. It does.
Yep.
It does that last little thing that you can't get with EQ
Yeah,
or
or
compression.
compression.
Yeah.
Yep.
That top end saturation, that clarity that the distortion adds to it.
Yep.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, get a clipper and try it. It's
Yep.
really, really cool.
It is cool. What clippers do you use?
Depending on what I'm doing, I will use JST clip for like single sources.
Yep.
I
What's
like-
JST?
So
What
that's
comes
Joey
out?
Sturgis. Do you know
Joey Sturgis tones. Yeah.
So-
Sorry, I should. That's
so- yeah.
I do. I'm very familiar with their
Yeah.
products.
Apologize to the internet.
Yeah. Sorry, internet.
Cool.
I know JST. I do
yeah.
know them. I just had a brain meltdown. I'm like JHS pedals.
Yeah.
JST.
Anyway,
There's
so
so
this,
many acronyms.
this one's been around forever. It's cool. It's super. It's like. It's hard. It's super gnarly.
Yeah.
That's the only way I
It's
can
a hard
describe
clipper.
It's a hard clipper.
yep.
But I mean, it's super hard.
Yeah,
It
okay.
is. It is very, very aggressive, as are all JST plugins.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with the JST stuff, it's not for the faint-hearted. It is like it's like his compression stuff, like the gain reduction, sounds like 4 1176s plugged into each other.
Yeah.
Have you used it before? Gain reduction?
I've never used any of the JST stuff. Sorry again, internet.
No, it's not. It's not your thing. They're extreme.
Yeah.
So like if you're
Yep.
if you're making extreme music, whatever that may be,
Yep.
for me it's extreme metal. They work really well.
I bet.
The other one I really like is standard clip. The reason I
Heard a lot
use
about standard clip.
yeah, this one was introduced to me by Josh Bartel.
Yep.
The reason I like this one over the Sturgis one, the Sturgis one is a little bit more bombastic and it has more tonal qualities to it.
Yep.
Whereas the standard clipping here is a lot more transparent. You can obviously see you've got way more controls, like the oversampling. You can change it from hard to soft. Apparently you can change the GUI. I didn't know that either. But yeah, so you have the metering is the main thing.
Yep.
Because a lot of clipping plugins don't have metering.
Yep.
Or the metering is very
Very
basic.
bad. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll use this if I want to be precise. If I just want to slap something on and vibe, it's this one.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I also use.
And is the standard clip both soft and hard?
you see
yep.
this thing in the middle here? You
Yep.
can change it from soft to
it's got
soft.
different modes. Yeah, cool.
And then there's another
Yeah,
one
cool.
called
Sick.
I think it's called Newfangled audio saturate. And now this is a saturator and a plug and a clipper together.
Mm-hmm.
I like this
Very
again because it's kind of a combination of both of them. If you want to add vibe and you want to just kind of mash something to when it sounds kind of crazy, this is a cool tool for that.
Yeah, cool.
I use this on my mix bus too. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
You can really go over the top too fast with that. What do you use?
I got onto Gold Clip. I'd heard a lot of people talking about Gold Clip. Yeah, it's kind of like one of the standards that people are using, same as standard clip.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
It is sick. So
Cool.
yeah, so is it Ryan Schwab from Schwab Digital has created
All
this.
I can think of is Brendan Schwab. Is he a guy? He's the YouTuber.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Brendan Schwab?
Yeah,
maybe
he's like the ex-MMA fighter. He's
no, that's the Rogan guy. Yeah. We don't need to get into that. Anyway, cool.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this one,
Jeez, it's not cheap.
no, it is expensive.
Yeah.
You can rent to buy though.
Right.
Which is kind of cool.
Yep.
At least
Yep.
it is not cheap.
Yep.
It is also a saturation. It's got saturation on it.
It's $250. Oh, it's a pack. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the pack one.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the pack has the Gold Clip and then a track version for when you want to put it on tracks versus buses, and it's just simplified and less intense on your CPU.
Gotcha.
But it's basically it's modeled off hardware. There's a certain converter that used to be able to be like people would use it and clip the shit out of it, and they'd get this sound. So what they're doing is recreating that digitally.
Right.
It's got a certain sound as you dial in this gold setting that they have that's makeup gain, and it saturates. It has a sound like all these clippers do. It can do hard, soft, or like a more like there's 3 different settings from hard, medium, soft kind of thing on clipping.
So
it's sick.
What is soft versus hard clipping?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Is it just the cutoff angle?
Yeah. So and how aggressive and how quick that happens.
Right.
So I mean, snaps.
Do we take a step backwards here and explain clipping very briefly? I mean, everyone's got Google and you can just go Google it. But a good way, from the way I understood it, is a limiter. Here's the peak of your audio. The limiter brings this peak down so that it's lower. The clipper chops it off. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
And so that results in 2 very different tonal characteristics, right? So that's why with a clipper, with a limiter, you can have pumping because it's going to pull down massive transients and it's going to bring the other ones up.
Yes.
So you can have these what used to be massive disparities in volume are now the same, which can sound quite unrealistic sometimes.
Yes.
Whereas a clipper will literally cut the tops off that, which results in a very square waveform, which is where you hear the distortion.
Yeah, so the harder you clip, the more distortion you're going to get.
Right.
And it all, like, look, we can say these things, but it depends on how you use it.
Yeah.
And it depends on what you're using it on, like the distortion and the type of clipper. Like some clippers are going to, like limiters, are going to be more transparent.
All right.
Some are going to saturate more.
Yep.
But technically, like a hard clipper is going to, if you think of like hard and soft knee on a compressor, it's kind of the same thing in a way.
You know what I've just realized is that I use clippers a lot and I use them in a really, really aggressive way. And I've just realized that the reason because I try and clip softer mixes too and it doesn't work, it sounds like shit. I should be soft clipping them, not hard clipping them, right?
Yep.
Oh man, I just had a...
Yep.
Yeah,
and like
do that today.
if you're hard clipping, say, tracks, like kick and snare, maybe on your drum bus, you can just soft clip.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I never use soft clipping. I just go straight to the hard clipper. Interesting, because I think...
But if it works, it works.
I think it's because that's the sound I'm used to hearing.
Yeah.
Is in metal and in rock music and heavy stuff, you are used to that, like, balls to the wall, you know, like everything on 11.
Yep.
So soft clipping doesn't really make sense because you want to transform a sound
a
lot.
Or like maybe if you're putting clips on lots of stuff, like kick, snare, drum bus, maybe they're all hard clipped.
Yeah.
But then maybe the instrument bus is soft clipped.
True.
But then again, like, because I know when I put an SSL compressor on my mix bus, it pushes the transients back up. It recovers transients, right?
Yeah.
So especially VCA compression. This is getting really down the rabbit hole right now. But let's do it, right? VCA, like fast VCA, snappy VCAs, like your APIs, definitely the SSL, DBX 160s. They bring transients back, all right? And like your compressor is a transient designer. So they'll bring some of that back. And so I find when I put my SSL on the mix bus, as soon as I engage that, kicks and snares come up again a little bit and need that clipping again on the mix bus. So I might hard clip my mix bus, but my instrument bus might be gentler, if at all.
Yeah.
I don't
okay.
know. Like,
All
but
right.
that I'm still experimenting
So,
with this.
all right. Well, I was going to ask you a question, but I'll answer the question first. Where do you use clippers?
Yeah.
So for me, in order,
Yep.
kick snare or kick snare toms
Yep.
always.
Yes.
'cause
Yep.
You want to bring out some brightness, which clippers bring out brightness, and you want to control transients, which is what we're after. Then, depending on the song, depending on what's happening, I might clip the drum bus.
Yep.
Before it gets to the instrument bus, so I have more even compression.
Yep.
That doesn't always happen. That's probably a 20% case. So usually kick snare toms into my instrument bus. I usually don't do any clipping there. I'll usually wait until it hits my second mix bus.
Yep.
This is getting complicated also.
Yeah.
Because
Second mix bus.
yeah,
Wait a second.
yeah, what?
Yeah.
Well, the way I set my sessions up is individual buses for individual instruments. They
Yep.
go into either the back bus or the front bus, which is this is a pretty normal technique in metal. I'll either put like it'll be drums, guitar, bass, rhythm guitar, not lead guitar.
Yep.
Drums, rhythm guitar, bass to the back bus. Lead guitar, synths, vocals, anything like that go to the front bus.
Yep.
So I've got buses in buses. They go to their own one. Those two are then sent to a mix bus.
Yep.
Which then I apply clipping, saturation, blah, 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 which then goes to my stereo out, which I export my stereo out. The reason I have two stereo out buses is that, say if I want to export a track, but I don't want my mix bus on it, like my mix bus settings on it, I can just select stereo out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And it bypasses my mix bus stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where I use my clippers. Where have you been using them?
Exactly the same.
Cool.
Kick, snare, toms.
Yep.
Drum bus.
Yep.
Sometimes on instrument bus so far.
Yep.
And then definitely on that mix bus.
Did I
the
tell
final
you
mix bus.
about how I saw a guy doing clippers into reverb? Did I tell you about that?
That would be cool.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
because like we would
you don't
use
want
compression.
Well, you don't
or
want you don't want your reverbs to be very
Bombastic.
dynamic
Yeah.
or transient rich, right?
Yep.
So this guy was like, I don't like the sound of transients in my reverb.
Oh man, I'm going to be trying that. As
Try
soon
it,
as I
dude.
go home.
When you get home,
Yeah.
put the clipper in front of the reverb send and clip it, 6 dB or something like that, just so you've got a nice even.
Yeah.
And you'll feel it.
It's more constant.
Immediately you hear like it's been compressed. It's really good. With
Blow
no
my
compression.
mind, dude.
Yeah, dude, we gave each other one.
Already,
Fuck
I know
yeah.
I've heard it.
Yeah.
So what? This is going to be so crazy, and we've talked about this artist, me and you, before.
Yeah.
I've been listening to lots of girl pop. I have a young 4-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
super into.
Yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah. That's the only reason. I swear to God. Yeah. Anyway,
Fully derailed
no,
you there.
yeah, derailed me because you undid me because
Sorry, dude.
last year my Spotify recommendation said that I was a pink pony princess because of all the Chapel
are, mate.
Road.
Yeah.
I was like, you get me,
Yeah,
Spotify.
yeah,
you
man.
got me. You
So
got me.
who have you been listening to? Was it
Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, man.
The production on her most recent album is
killer.
awesome.
Yeah.
It's when you listen on streaming services, it is the loudest mixes
Yep.
and mix masters. Like it is the most polished.
Mm-hmm.
It is very like it's just all there. And
Yep.
to me, that's like a pinnacle. And we're doing different genres, so
Yes.
we're never with real drums and guitars going to get that kind of mix because we're dealing with different things and
Yes.
different instrumentation, different arrangements.
Yes.
However, it's good I like having those sometimes as reference tracks to try and shoot for in certain aspects, like in maybe the clarity of a mix
Yes.
or the clarity of a vocal.
Can I back you up here for 1 second?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I look for vocal production techniques in pop music.
Yes.
I listen to I've been really inspired in the past by like Demi Lovato.
Yes.
Like her mixes, the production on the pop mixes of her vocal is unreal.
Oak Felder is the engineer on that.
Oak Felder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
look him up.
All
He's
right.
got heaps of YouTube content. He's sick.
I'll remember that. Yeah, cool. Because he's like the choices that he makes on her voice.
Yeah.
She sounds larger than life.
Yep.
Justin Bieber's another great example. Obviously, Sabrina Carpenter, Tate McRae, Billie Eilish, like any of these like pop femme like demigods that are getting around at the moment. Those mixes are sick.
Yeah, and it's the best of the best engineers,
Yep.
so we should be looking at them for
Hell yeah.
inspiration
And
on
usually,
no matter what we're doing.
pop vocal production bleeds into all other elements of production.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're usually they are the Mercedes of the world. They inspire
Yeah.
everyone else. They do the things first. They show you how it's done, which is cool.
Yeah. And so, I'd been listening to that stuff and just was like, there's some things happening in these mixes that I'm not getting, especially drum transients that are just slamming,
Yeah.
but like so clean and tight.
Right.
And
so,
I
so
find
what did you hear?
just on some of the Sabrina Carpenter tracks in particular, I could just hear this tightness, this bit of saturation, It was
In the
just
drums or the whole
in the
mix?
drums.
Okay.
But it was in this. It was a different type of
What's the
drum
song?
taste.
Taste, okay.
The track taste.
Yeah,
in particular.
I'll listen to it.
And then there was a vocal polish and stuff that was coming out, but that's other stuff that's going on there.
Yeah.
But there was this stuff and this tightness in the drum sounds that I was hearing on that track and some other tracks from other artists that I'd heard, and actually some of your mixes as well.
Oh, thanks, bro. Yeah, thank you.
And I was like, there's something that I'm not getting in my kicks and snares, and there's this tightness, especially that yours as well, like this tightness in heavier stuff. And I'm like, I'm not getting that.
Yeah.
There's this something missing in my chain.
Man, it's funny because this experience that you're having, I had that a few years ago with the same thing where I was listening to a mix. I was like, how is the kick and snare so present, but I'm not overwhelmed by it? I'm not hearing the limiter go like this. You know, the compression is moving, but the kick and snare are fucking right fucking here. You know, like how is this happening? So yeah, that's cool that you've done that. I found that another thing that clippers do, because they add top end, it distracts you from your low mids.
Yes.
So, like, for example, if you've got an uninteresting drum sound, you clip it, it'll create all this, like, kind of upper mid stuff that's exciting. And, and it distracts you from the things that are lacking.
Yeah, cool. That's an interesting take on that, yeah.
Okay, so we were just talking about how you've been using clipping. You pretty much said that you've been doing it the same way.
Yep.
How do you run clippers on your master bus?
On master bus, depending on what it needs, like we talked about. So if I've got something that is a really pumping track, that SSL really starts to poke those snares back through, then I'm going to go maybe a hard clipper, but just tickle it. Like,
is this
everything on the master?
Are you mastering?
Yeah. So
right.
I'm doing a lot of stuff where the client wants me to mix and then master as well.
So that's a different situation because I'm not mastering and I have never mastered. So a lot of the stuff that I end up doing on my mix bus, I take off. And then I just say to Josh, I'll be like, when you master this, this is what I was doing. This is what I was going for.
That's cool.
So like, for example, with clippers, I'll use my first clipper at maybe eight times, something like that, like oversampling.
Yep.
And then I'll knock off like a pretty solid amount. Like I treat clippers the same as compression.
Yep.
So the first one knocks off 4 to 6. The next one might knock off 2.
Yeah.
And the next one's doing 1.
Yeah. Wow.
So instead of 3 doing 10 dB, I'm just doing that across three plugins.
And this is the thing, right? Like, and same with limiters. Like people using multiple limiters, people are doing this, and it doesn't matter if you're talking hardware or software. If you get one device to do all the heavy lifting,
100%.
it's going to struggle, and it's going to introduce too many artifacts.
Man,
especially with plugins.
I didn't understand this for ages because I would hear people say this stuff and I'd be like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like software,
Just do it with one.
software's software, right? It shouldn't matter if it's doing 2 dB or 10 dB. The algorithm's the same. So why is it doing this thing? And I was like you. I was like, okay, so instead of doing 8 dB compression, I'm going to do 2 across 4 units. Sounds so much better.
Yeah. And look, like at the end of the day, like there's the motto, like if it sounds good, it is good.
Yeah.
And so you just try it, try it. And any naysayers about clippers and saying anyone that's saying limiting is the same as clipping that's nonsense.
Well, they just don't understand what it is.
Yeah, that is absolute nonsense. And clippers are in everything, like the arouser plugin with the distressor plugin. You know that Empirical Labs actually make. That has a soft clipper in it. There are clippers in everything.
Oh, that's the distressor.
The distressor plugin has a soft clipper, but it does not hit as hard as a clipper plugin at all.
Hey, have you got your distressors yet?
No.
Oh, okay. Because you just bought a pair, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you see someone else sold a pair recently for the similar price that you paid on Facebook?
I saw someone selling one.
No, the pair for like 3.7.
Nah, I didn't see
that.
that.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, good deal.
It's a terrible time to sell gear at the moment.
Yeah.
People are selling it for so cheap.
Yeah.
So if you can afford to buy it, do it now.
Yeah.
Actually, Distressors was my first foray into hardware clipping and hearing
cool.
what that sounds like.
Yep.
There's something inexplicable and special about it, hey?
Yeah. I would describe your drum sound, and a lot of it comes to Distressors and clipping
100%.
as explosive.
Yes.
When I listen to your drum sound, and go and check out any emitters work, the drum sound had this explosiveness to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do I get that?
Yeah, okay.
What is that?
Yeah,
and then you actually made me dive back into the plugin, the arouser plugin. That name.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's a lot.
It's funny, man. Like the owner, if anyone knows the owner of Empirical Labs, you get it. But yeah, like it just, even the plugin does it well. And then I was like, now I need the hardware.
Yeah.
It sold it for me because everyone knows we love our hardware, but you have your hardware for some things, and you have the plugin for some things, and it was enough to justify it.
That's cool.
And the other thing I was hearing vocally in these pop mixes, and this is the other reason why I got the Distressors, partly for drums and then partly for vocals. I'm hearing so much saturation on vocals, and I want to get that happening in tracking more. And the Distressor is a big one for me.
So I did a few mixes for a couple of clients, and I often get a lot of compliments on my vocal production, which is not intentional because it's not like I obviously I put a lot of effort into vocals. Everyone does, but it's not the thing that I expect people to hear and go, "Wow, that's cool." So it is nice when people compliment me on it, but I think one thing that I do with vocal compression is multiple stages of heavy compression using Distressors. So like my old chain used to be a Distressor at 2-to-1, attack about 7, release about 2, knocking off like 4-to-10, like a lot. And then the second one would be at maybe 4-to-1 or 6-to-1 with a faster attack, faster release.
Is this in tracking or mixing?
Mixing.
In mixing.
Never in tracking. That's
okay.
insane.
Okay. I was going to say.
No way.
But do you hit a Distressor in tracking though ever?
Never. Not anymore. I used to. I used to track with a Distressor. The reason I don't anymore is not because I don't want to. It's just because I took them out of my chain. So they're not physically in the chain where I record.
Okay.
So they're in my mix room. They're not in my tracking room.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't do it.
Okay.
If they were in the same room and I could link them, I would do it. But anyway. So I'd do the first one up to 10 dB compression, the second one up to say 4 dB compression, and then into 1176, doing 6 to 8, dude.
Yeah.
And then into another Distressor, do it on Nuke for a limiter. Yeah. So I've four compressors on one vocal.
You only have 2 Distressors though.
Yeah, but like I would print that and then go again.
Oh,
yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah,
but the distortion one is in parallel or
no? Or on the vocal, dude. Yeah. And people this is not even for metal.
It's crazy.
Dude, this is for a pop production. And I did a mix for a band and they didn't like the mix and they asked me for just the vocals.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, fair enough. There you go. There's the vocals. And that's what I did on that one.
Yeah. Wow.
It was a pop indie production. And I had four compressors and the last one was on Nuke.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. Go like another pop vocalist, Olivia Rodrigo.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, so much distortion.
Yeah.
So much. I was like, that was another one I was listening to recently, and I was like, man, there's so much distortion on this. I need that.
Do you know what mics they would have used?
I would guarantee that
it's going to be one of the big 3 or 4, right?
It'll be the 251, one of the Neumanns.
Yep. There might be a C8000 in there.
Yeah, maybe.
There might be a Manly reference, like
Manly reference mic or something.
Something like that.
And then the CL1B. And then usually in one thing I saw when I was over in NAMM in the studios that we went to, everyone's got those DW Fern Pultec EQs over there.
I have no idea what that is.
Check them out. So they're red. They're these red units. If you ever see these...
DW Fern Pultec.
There's a bit of hype around them because everyone in LA uses them.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The price? It's eye-watering. Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
Hang on a sec. I gotta find a. Let's go images. What? And this is a $20,000.
Yep.
Are you kidding?
No.
And so it's a Pultec, a hardware Pultec.
Yeah.
Oh,
They've got different products. Yeah.
I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's this? What's the go?
So they've got a Pultec that everyone's using over there. They've got other stuff as well. I think they've got some compressors or something. Don't quote me. I can't remember. But the big one that I've seen everywhere is their Pultec clone. Right. It's very expensive.
Yep.
And they're doing the Pultec thing. That really...
On the vocal?
On vocals.
Okay.
Yeah, or on a mixed bus or on a vocal bus.
Yeah,
and they're getting, if you hear those really crisp, really transparent mixes, like I heard a bunch of mixes actually come out of a big engineer called Bob Horn. Bob Horn is an amazing engineer that I got to meet over there through Nick from Panorama Mastering. Shout out again, Nick. And... yeah, his mixes sounded like they were mastered. Yeah, he's done Usher.
Oh, shit. Okay, cool. Yeah, right.
So he trained under Dave Pensato.
Okay.
Right? And his mixes were so crisp and so clean and so bright, but in a pleasing way. They sound like the masters you hear.
Nice.
Right? They're already that polished and that crisp. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Like, this is next level mixing.
Yep.
Go check out his work. He's actually really prominent on Instagram. He does live streams of his mixing and stuff when he's mixing sessions. Really cool. Anyway, awesome bloke as well. And yeah, like that was an eye opener for me. Like there were these processes, these things that people were shooting for over there that I haven't thought of. And it kind of conceptualized things for me, what I'm shooting for when I'm mixing and stuff, and what I should be aiming for.
Okay.
So I started looking at more pop. Hence why I got in going back. Why I started focusing on girl pop mixes like because it's the most popular stuff right now, and it's being done by the best engineers. So I needed to have my ears on what's really going on.
100%.
And so there was just these few things: clipping, the distressors and the distortion, the saturation that they deliver. And then I thought, with what I've got in my studio as is, I don't need the DW ferns.
No.
I can get that crispness out of those EQs that I've got from Z&H. So anyway, so I can get there with the other stuff that I've got. But yeah, it's been a big, coming back from the States for me has been a big rediscovery of all this stuff, I think, and a reconceptualization of what I'm trying to do.
I've never used a CL1B, have you?
No.
Right.
No,
they're meant to be like super
transparent,
like expensive sounding and like very exciting. Yeah, the closest thing I've used would be the STA level that I have.
Yeah. Same kind of vibe.
Yeah, that big, like big smiley, big exaggerated kind of sound.
Yeah. And like it's funny because there's heaps of Varimu compressors out there that are affordable.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think the CL1B's opto though, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's opto.
It's tube too, right?
Yeah. I think it's like a faster acting opto thing. But you can get that sound in a few ways.
A technique that I've been doing that I think you would like as well is putting the 33609 on my vocal group bus, on my global vocal bus. Because you know how it's really punchy and present?
Yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah. I did a video recently where I used it on vocals and was surprised what it did to a vocal.
I've never really used it on a single vocal source, but I like it on the bus because you know how it tightens the low end because it's got the transformer thing, and then it adds that kind of high end like hype, a bit of like it almost sounds like clipping or something.
Well, like, because it uses diodes, it probably is.
Right.
Yeah, I think the limiters do. Well, I'm almost 100% sure the limiting stage clips.
Yeah, okay.
If you push into it hard enough.
Well, I never used limiting stage. I find it unusable. You still like yours?
Wrong. Yeah. You're wrong.
I mean, it might be cool. I can't find a use for it. It's too extreme.
It can be, it can be. Obviously, we're talking different units as well. Like I'm using the Behringer one, I find it super usable for the way I push into it.
And you like it on drums, yeah?
I like it on drums.
Right.
Yeah. I love the way that limiter clips down on it.
I like it too. I think it just, for me, it takes out too much transient information.
Yeah, and that could be because of the way you've already got your clipping stage into it and stuff. Anyway.
I also don't tend to limit drums, so because I have so much compression going on in my mix and master. Sorry, my mix buses.
Yeah.
So I tend to leave the buses not too crazy.
Yeah.
I think if I was to limit into clippers, it would sound pretty insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could get silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Cool.
What else do we have?
Hit me with a topic. What do you got?
Hang on a sec. This is a big one for you.
Yeah.
Guitar cab IRs.
Yeah, okay.
Let's talk this because I'm old school when it comes to guitars at the moment. And just talking you up today.
Yeah.
One of the things I hear in your mixes is the tightness of your guitars.
Okay.
It's really you get these big heavy guitars that are really tight sounding, and it's something that I'm chasing in my sound as well, especially for heavy stuff. Like heavy guitars can just get out of control.
Yeah.
And guitar tracking can be a challenge anyway with artists. But I, kind of have started to experiment a little bit with like playing around with the DI tracks and trying to do more with what I've got.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd be keen to hear your thoughts on guitar cab IRs and what you're doing in your process.
I appreciate the compliment. It's really nice of you. I disagree. I hate my guitar sounds.
Yeah, we have had that combo.
Thank you, but you're wrong. No, that's really nice of you, man.
Well, what I hear is this tightness and like this very focused guitar tone.
I can get a guitar tone that I'm happy with most of the time. I'm rarely walk away from a mix going like, whoa, that guitar sound. Like I'll get something that works well in the mix, but then again, that's what mixing, right? You're never going to walk away going like, whoa, that snare drum. It's like, it's about the whole thing.
Yep.
So yeah, that is nice of you. I'm like you. I have a pretty organic approach to recording music because I think we both grew up in that time, like the end of the end of the tape player, the start of the digital era. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we were kind of on the cusp of that.
Yep.
So I think you and I, especially because we both came from a live world first, we have a bunch of those like old school mentality things in us, like real cabs, real drum rooms, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But because we grew up in the digital age, there's an element of practicality that's needed to move forward.
Yeah.
And like that's another thing, man, is like I fought for so long. I'm like, no, tubes, real speakers, fuck digital amps, fuck amp sims, fuck all that shit, you know, like and still today I still think like that, you know. I'm not a fan of amp sims. I don't like digital amps. They don't sound good to me.
Yeah.
But the thing I found is that I either have to move with the times or die, essentially, because like as cool as recording real guitars is, we've discussed this in the last episode, the budgets are disappearing all over the place. You know, it's not often practical to have multiple rooms in a studio to do this sort of thing in. Yeah. And then not just that, like you've got, in the world of recall, you want to have more options, you know, and then you in post, you want to have as many options as you can. Yep. So a few years ago, I was about 18 months ago, I started playing around with like cab IRs. I think I've resolved myself to the fact that I'm probably never going to gel with amp sims. Yeah. I'm probably never going to be the amp sim guy.
So do you want to explain like exactly
what they are?
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
So
the difference.
Yeah, right. So obviously like amp sims are a simulated digital amplifier. So we're talking about Neural DSP, GGD, any door-based amplifier that you pull up as a plugin.
Yep. So you're going from your guitar instead of into a real amplifier stage,
going into
a digital amplifier.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And they're really cool. You can pull some crazy tones that you cannot get with normal guitar amps.
Of course.
Which is, I think, that's a different conversation. But we're seeing metal, especially metal, head off in this insane direction because we've got this. We can make guitars sound like robots now. Yeah. You know, and it sounds like Transformers fighting each other. It doesn't sound like real guitars anymore. But we can do that. So people are going off in this crazy direction. That's fine. And like I'm here for it. I want to do that stuff too. But I think I love the fundamental thing about playing guitar into a guitar amp, into a speaker, and there being some inconsistencies. Maybe it's not perfect, but there's an indescribable quality to it that you can't get with a digital thing. Yes. Because the digital thing doesn't create the inconsistencies and the anomalies.
Same thing we've talked about with hardware plugins before.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you run electrical, like literally electrons through stuff, it's different to ones and zeros.
And that's without having the conversation talking about speakers moving air. Yeah. That's before we get into physics and all that sort of thing. So so you've got digital amps, which are great and they're very useful. And then you've got the real amp recording process, which is amplifier, guitar speaker, microphone, preamp, AD conversion, computer. Yep. Obviously, that whole process I described is really complicated. Yep. So, one thing I found is that you don't like miking a cab's real hard. Yeah. It's really hard. Like I've been recording music for almost 20 years. Yeah. And I can get a good guitar sound anytime. If you asked me to get the same guitar sound 2 days in a row, I probably couldn't do it for you. Yeah. Because it's so hard, man.
Dude, I'm realizing how varied my guitar tone can be on the day. Bro. I had a session the other week where I pulled my favorite guitar tones of all time. Yep. And I was like, I'm the best. Yes. I'm the best at this. Yep. I've got this nailed. Yep. And then I went back to another session.
Same rig, same chain, same everything. Yep. New player. Yep. Forget it.
Yeah. And and then maybe I did something slightly different on the day. My ears were different on the day.
Maybe the day was hotter. Maybe the temperature in the room was hotter. Like honestly, there's so many things. Yeah. So there's so many variables there. Yeah. So a part of this process is to try and reduce the amount of variables. Yeah. And also realistically, it's about setup time too. So I have a band come in, and sometimes it can take me between an hour to 2 hours to mic a cab. And to me, that's reasonable because there's so many things. Like each cab has 4 mics on it. Yep. They've all got to be in phase. They've all got to be patched properly. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things to consider here.
Yep. Got to sound check it.
That's 2 hours of the day the artist has just lost. That's 20% of their studio time is gone to set up. Yep. Whereas I can plug into a IR box. What are they called? Like a
load box?
Load box, yeah.
Load box, yeah.
So I can plug my guitar into a load box and essentially have the same sound that I would from, like, not only is it 8 mics, but there's 2 cabs, there's amp splitters, there's multiple cables. You know, it's a fucking nightmare to set up. So it takes me so long. And then if I want to recreate that again next week when the artist comes back, that's 2 more hours gone. So the cool thing about this is I can actually profile my speakers on my amp, like with my microphones and all the different placements I like, and then I just pull it up digitally. And
that's how this works.
Yes. So this plugs into the back of the guitar amp where the speaker would normally go.
So this takes the load that the speaker would usually take.
Yes.
So
yes.
straight out of the amp.
Yes. And you need to have a load on your head. A lot of people don't understand that, but you need the head plugged into something at all times.
Yeah.
So this is...
Otherwise it goes kaboom.
Oh, yeah. It's bad. It's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically what I can do with this is have all of those things that I would normally do, but it's all digital.
Yep.
And it sounds the same.
Yeah.
Like it honestly, I was a little bit worried that clients would come in and go, hey, where's the speaker cab? Or, hey, this sounds weird. No one's noticed yet.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to not only the tech, but how cool the process is.
Yeah.
Is that you really, I mean, yeah. And then you can take into consideration once the guitar sound hits the mix, and once that mix is mastered, like, are you going to hear, you know,
so
like,
yeah,
the suffering that miking a cab caused me has been heavily outweighed by the practicality of this unit.
Yeah.
So not only do I use this for guitar, I use it for bass as well.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so this is there's a whole bunch of different IRs you can use. Like I said, you can create your own, which is really cool. You should experiment with that.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
Yeah.
It's really cool. But there's certain brands that have different IRs. Oh, I can't.
So explain to everyone what you're doing. So you've got guitar going into an amplifier, and your amplifiers might change because you've got a bunch of awesome amps.
Yep.
You've got all the classics, right?
Yeah, I've got all the cool ones.
Yeah, all the cool. He's got all the Pokemon. Anyway, yeah. So then you go out of the amp into the load box, and the load box is then going out of the load box into preamp.
Yes. So this effectively replaces the speaker box.
Yeah.
And that also means you can record silently.
Yeah.
Which how good is that?
Yeah, it's good.
Like in how many studios, especially home studios, are the two rooms not isolated from each other? Even like the last space we were in before we built this studio, we put a lot of effort into isolation from room to room.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, man. Like the low end it just bleeds
Goes
through
through.
walls. So like you might be in the control room thinking like, yeah, this tone rules, and then you play it back and there's no low end in it.
Yeah.
So silent recording is it's actually way more useful than you think.
Yeah, because then you're just going straight through your monitoring.
All your hearing's coming out of the monitoring.
Yeah.
There's no
Making
secondary
the right choices.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I make better decisions faster.
Yeah.
So even if you do prefer the sound of the guitar cab, it's kind of outweighed by the fact that you can make better decisions faster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
like that's in everyone's best interest.
Yeah.
So there are a bunch of things. Oh, dude, I was talking to Darcy Long about this, and I was like,
Dude, you're killing me.
right? Yeah, I was like,
How much did these cost?
do you want to borrow it?
How much did they cost?
This one cost me $800. Or
Yeah, that's what I was
maybe a
expecting.
bit
I was
more.
gonna say
No,
800,
dude,
yeah.
if you get this, there's a cheaper one, the torpedo captor. So Lachlan bought one of these.
Yep.
Brand new, you can get one there. Look, $380.
Yeah, dude.
So I've seen them sell
Sick.
used for $200.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you should try that.
Yep.
Oh shit, maybe I'll buy the Sir one. I want to try the Sir one. That's the other thing is they all sound different.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they're all gonna have their
I
sound,
actually
right?
did a
Shootout.
on this. If you
I
go,
did see that.
if you go to our Tommirock here and you go load box shootout, there's a video in here, this one. Yeah, well, there you go. Takes you directly to the load box section. So this is my comparison between a couple of different load boxes.
Yep.
Give you an idea of how they sound.
Very cool.
Yeah, dude, there's a couple of different options. I really, really recommend it, hey. Because then the other thing you can do is change the preamp, and that'll change the characteristic of the load box, how it accepts the sound.
Yep.
So,
take us through your signal chain then. So say you're just recording, let's say metal guitars.
Yep.
Like,
well, any guitar's always the same.
yeah.
So we start with the guitar.
Yep.
That goes. Actually, this is kind of complicated. So it goes into my
Let's
Neve,
nerd out, guys. Let's go.
into my Neve DI.
Yep.
The Neve DI is so
The
good,
R&D,
man.
yeah.
Oh, man. Like I didn't think much of things like this until Tom gave me this box, and I was like, oh man, I have been missing out big time.
Yeah. Shout out Thomas Mitchell.
Oh, dude, Thomas Mitchell, you saved my life. Here we go. So, it's not on there. Anyway, they'll update it.
So you go into the DI.
Into the DI.
And split out of that.
And then I come out of one split goes to the tuner. Mm-hmm. Another one the DI goes to my AD. Mm-hmm. So I record
straight in the box.
Yep, straight in the box.
So that's your DI.
Yep.
Clean.
And then the third one will go out to the amp.
Yep.
So before the amp, there's usually pedals. So I'll have a series of pedals into the amplifier. So my computer is receiving DI amplifier signal, and it's not getting the tuner because I don't need the tuner to go to the other thing. So tuner just goes to the tuner and stops there. Then once I'm in the door, out of the amp into a preamp.
Yep.
The ones I like at the moment, the Chandler Germanium.
So, but it actually goes amp into this into a preamp.
Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
So amp into the load box, which has like an input and output. They're just TRS, I think.
Yep.
Another important thing to note is they accept different wattages.
Yeah.
This one is a 16. Oh, this one's an 8 ohm.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 16. Wow. I've been running my amps on 16. Shit.
So just so you know, and people at home know, you can be one ohmage away, usually safely.
One
step, one step.
Really?
Yeah. So if you've got a 16 ohm box,
you can run it at 8.
You can run at 8.
Right.
On a cab, 8 ohm cab or vice versa. It's not ideal.
Yeah. Right.
Some amps can have issues with that, but most loading can work. But as soon as you go 16 to 4, then you're in trouble.
Well, I always knew that as long as your head is higher than the cab, you're okay.
Yeah.
So that's the rule I go by.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I come out of the head into this, out of this into the preamp.
Yeah.
Now, what I was saying to you before is the different preamps can change the way the head sounds, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
So like I found the Chandler Germanium is killer because it's like dark, it's really saturated. Yeah.
All the gear I don't have.
Yeah.
They're all the bits I don't have.
Okay. So the other one is the CAPI. The CAPI sound killer.
Yeah. Of course they do.
And
They're
then
sick on guitars always.
The other thing is, like, I've tried it with a 1073 with an EQ, and that's killer too, because you're effectively EQing the cab. Yeah. Which is, it's a different sound to EQing the head.
Yep.
So if you've caught up, we're up to the preamp, then we go preamp into the AD. That's the setup. So there's a lot of plugging in, but it's infinitely less complicated than the cabs.
Yeah, cool. And is this box doing, like, is it simulating cabs for you? Like, it's got a cab
This
thing.
one doesn't.
Yeah,
so,
but other ones do.
Okay, so you have to watch the video, but the reason I got this one is because it's the most neutral sounding of all the ones that I could hear.
It's capturing the amp sound.
Yeah.
But then
it doesn't.
Then in the box, are you adding a cab to that as well, an IR? Like cab thing, a speaker?
Obviously, yes. So there's this one, the Torpedo has an inbuilt cab thing.
Yeah.
I think the Sir does as well.
Yeah.
Some of them come with inbuilt cab thing, and they even come with like headphone outputs. This is a little boutique company, so I think it's just bare bones.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing more, and that's kind of why I bought it. So I didn't need any of the other things. I don't want anything to go wrong. I don't want a cab sim inside the box. I don't want a headphone amp in there.
Yeah.
But anyway, some of them have that. So once I'm in the box, I will then use a cab IR. These are the ones I really like lately. GGD, these for heavy music sound really good.
Yep.
There's a couple other options like
GGD get good drums.
Yep.
Nolly get good.
Yep.
Periphery.
Everyone knows. Nolly is killer at capturing guitars. Everyone knows that.
Oh, he's done the science, man. He's done the thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I trust that.
Yeah. So this one's cool because you have like different. You can see here there's different types of cabs. You have different, like most of the different types of mics that you would choose to mic a cab with. Like you're not going to find a U67 in there because that's an insane choice on a guitar cab. Depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
So then you can pick your different cabs. It has a master EQ which you can't control. It's just like it feels like a slight low mid and a slight high mid bump. Just to what things you would normally do on guitar.
Yep.
And then, so there's a couple of different options. There's like this STL one. I've heard this one sound fantastic as well. The interface is very different. You've got all these cabs, and then you can load a different cab in there.
Yeah, this is the weird thing you were telling me about before.
I don't quite understand the choices they've made around the interface, but that aside, this one sounds great too.
Yep.
Lachlan found these in utero ones, which would interest you. Yeah. So this guy.
Actually, I'm going to be honest here.
Yeah.
All respect to Steve Albini, RIP.
Yeah.
I don't love those albums.
Guitars sound like poop.
Yep. I like the Butch Vig album.
Yeah, okay.
I like Nevermind.
Yeah,
Nevermind for me is the better album out of all of those.
Lachlan and I argue about this all the time because he's like,
he's wrong. Yeah. Sorry, Lachlan. Lachlan, love you, bro.
I love fucking Albini. I'm like, because everything sounds fucking mashed together.
Yeah. He had a sound and it was raw and it was it's got its thing. Yeah. But for me, the Butch Vig more polished Nirvana and the guitar tones and the drum tones in particular, for me, are
the reason I bring this up is because just because you're not micing a cab doesn't mean you can't have that sound. That raw, unfinished,
That's
terrible.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah, that raw, unfinished, loose, kind of gnarly sound. You can get IRs that do that. This guy, apparently what he did was like spent ages researching all the gear they used.
Is this guy got a YouTube channel?
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
What's the YouTube? What's the guy's name?
Can't remember.
Man.
So Josh, Lachlan put me onto this because he's a massive Albini fan.
Yeah.
And so this guy did the research. He used the same mics, same pre's, all of it. It's like it's really cool.
Yep.
I don't care for it.
Yep.
But
I've seen this.
Yeah,
I've seen this. Yeah.
It's just another way to do it, and it's kind of shows you that there are like, even though the process is different, the end result doesn't have to be different.
Yeah.
It can be the same thing.
Very cool.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, anyway, so that's where I'm up to with I do the same thing with bass.
Yeah.
So I use.
Yeah, I'm finding bass is where I need the most work.
You know what's funny is that me and Lachlan have decided we don't actually need bass amps.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like I need a bass amp anymore. I can't remember the last time where I couldn't get what I needed out of a few distortion pedals and a DI.
I feel like bass amps and speakers and miking up low end, especially because we're all
fucking
working
hard.
out of home studios.
It's so hard.
The low end is always going to be less phase coherent
Yes.
because your room sucks.
Yeah.
And like, we have good rooms, guys, but
I still
our
struggle.
rooms are small, which means we're always going to have low frequency problems.
Yes.
And you're never going to fix that.
And there's a good chance your monitoring doesn't fully represent what's happening in the low end.
Absolutely.
Dude, I spent so much money on my low end. Oh, sorry, on my monitoring, and my low end's still not great.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine,
Yeah.
but I still need to check it in my car.
Yeah.
And my monitoring's worth more than my car.
Yeah.
So, like, it's fucking dumb. So where are we? Oh yeah, bass. Yeah. So I just don't. I don't think I need bass amps anymore. Like, I love them. I've got that Fender in there, that's the only amp I've ever bought new. I walked into Musos Corner, shout out Musos, and someone said, "Have you heard that?" Because they know me. They're like, "Have you heard that?" And
Is
I
it
was
Fender
like,
basement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went in there. I was like, "Whatever, dude." I plugged it in.
He has all the best ones, guys.
Man, I plugged it in. I was just like, there you go.
Yeah.
There's the money.
Yeah, give me it.
Oh man, I threw my credit card at him. I was like, I bought it on credit too because I was just like, I can't afford this, but I'm not leaving without this thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I love that fucking thing, but I don't need it. Hey.
Yeah, okay.
Like, I can get the same result from a few pedals, and I think because the way bass sits in the mix, it's not on top like guitars. It's not, you don't have that upper mid, which is where people hear. That's where you can hear if something's fake or, doesn't sound right, is in the upper mids.
Yep.
Whereas bass, there isn't typically a lot of information up there.
Yeah.
And what is there is kind of meshed and like infused with what's happening with the guitars.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. Like, I love bass amps, and given that if I had a choice, I'll always choose to use them. But I don't think they're necessary in a lot of modern productions anymore. And I think you'll see a lot of people not using them.
Well, in all the pop production, like going full circle, they're using
synth bass or it's DI. It's bass DI.
Yeah.
Like that 70s like bass straight into the board thing.
Yeah.
It's killer, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it
and
works.
that's the other
It
thing.
works
is
for a
like,
reason.
Man, that's the other thing is like a bass
and it's
amp.
tighter.
A bass amp will extend way lower and way higher than a DI will.
Yep.
Which for live, that you need that.
Yep.
Studio, you really don't.
Yeah.
If anything, you want less. Like I don't know about you, but I'm pretty heavy-handed with filtering bass.
Yeah.
Are you?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
If I've mic'd a cab and that, you have to be. You have
to go in and notch out all the bullshit and that created by the amplifier.
Yeah.
And I find that the amp makes the low end crazy bombastic in a really unpredictable and uncontrollable
because
way.
of the modes of your room.
Yeah, true. Okay.
And the speaker cab.
Yep.
It's gonna have modes. It's a box.
And that's the other thing is it's just fucking hard to hear that low. It's really hard to make.
Yeah, you're not really hearing what's happening at 50 hertz in your room when we're working in.
A lot of people say, I can hear down there. Like, man, if I have trouble hearing it, I'd be surprised if you can.
Yeah, and you might hear it when it hits a certain note and it vibrates your walls, but you're not hearing the rest of the notes at the same.
And that's the other thing is like there's so much inconsistency in volume and dynamics with bass that I find that DIs and heavily compressed pedals just do the thing.
Yeah, distortion.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Distortion all day, man.
Yeah.
That actually brings up a good point. Someone asked me a question on Instagram. Thanks for the Instagram questions, guys. They're really good.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Yeah, please keep them coming.
We'll put a link to socials.
All right, so there was one here it was specifically about bass. Daniel, he says, bass preamps and making your bass sound rad. I love this question.
What's your favorite preamp for bass? Let's start there.
Okay. I need a second. What's yours?
I've got Neve clones.
Right.
Currently, the 73P from DIYRE is my best Neve clone.
Actually, let's.
Oh my god, man, that thing is so good.
DIYRE.
RE
1073.
73p they call it.
73p.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of your DIY RE stuff, and it sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
really
they're good, and they've done a thing with this Neve clone where
that guy. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know what you expect from a Neve clone, the proper Carnhill input and output stage, but they did this other thing where they messed with the op amp stages and the power regulator stage and stuff, and got it more true to the original circuit topology.
Okay.
All I can tell you is this: that thing sounds like the way you want any Neve preamp to sound.
Yeah.
And I've got other Neve clones, and I've used lots of Neve and Neve clone preamps, and that's my favorite.
Right, okay,
Easily,
great.
on any source. But on bass DI, it is excellent. It's going to give you that low-end kind of bump that you want. But then if I want tight, I always go to the CAPIs, the VP28s.
Yes,
As soon as I want
the CAPIs
tight,
is
CAPI.
like tight is how I describe those preamps.
Yep.
So you know what's funny, man? 1073 is not my favorite bass preamp.
Yeah?
Chandler Germanium.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just that low end, that thickness. I like the JLM NV, which is his 1073.
Yep.
Is really, really good.
Yep.
I really like that.
So maybe you
preamp.
do like Neve,
Yeah,
but it's maybe the different ones.
His version doesn't to me sound like a 1073. It's more modern. It's more
Yeah.
hi-fi sounding,
Okay.
which I like that in a bass. I find that
Yeah.
1073s can be too soggy,
Yeah. Yeah. They've got that oomph in the low end,
Yeah.
but it can be too much
uncontrolled,
in the wrong
loose.
way.
Yeah.
For different things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, man, it's funny because like when you say what's your favorite bass preamp, so the way I record bass is I split it so many times that there's not one preamp. There's like
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
So let's answer this question because this will answer your question too. So bass preamps and making your bass sound rad. Right. So bass preamps, I'll split into a couple. I'll have one for the low end, so that'll be like the Chandler Germanium, or it might be a 1073 or something like that.
Okay.
Then I will split off, and the distortion one will go into a CAPI.
Yep.
For that high end, that high mid thing.
So let's take it back a bit because like we're getting real in the weeds again.
Yeah.
Let's explain the chain,
All right,
the
cool.
actual chain.
It'd be,
So
good if
bass.
it'd be good if I could draw it because that would make sense to
No,
people.
we'll just verbalize it.
Right, cool.
Because
So-
if you draw it, it's no good for anyone listening.
All right, so the bass one's a bit complicated, but I really like it. So we come out of the bass into the DI like we did before, and then into a splitter.
Yep.
Out of the splitter, we go straight DI.
Yep.
And so for that one, I'll usually pick something neutral. What do I use for that? Yeah, it'll be like a 1073 or something that you would expect on bass, right?
Yep.
Something that would bring out some high mids for the pick and
Yep.
some low end for the bottom end.
Yeah, which is exactly what I describe a 73 on bass sounding like.
Yeah.
When you listen to, for me, a bass straight into a Neve 1073, like clone or otherwise, the DI input of bass into a Neve
Yes.
is Green Day.
I agree.
Green
I agree.
Day.
That's one of the only times
Listen
where
to Dookie by Green Day.
where
Listen
I'll
to
be
Longview.
like, I can hear the preamp.
Yeah.
Was when it's a bass into a 1073.
Yeah.
Or it's when it's snare into a 1073.
Yeah.
Because it's got that distortion, that
Yep.
crack. I know exactly what I'm hearing.
Yep.
So yeah. Anyway, so we're going DI into the 1073. I want a round, full, realistic picture of the DI. I don't want any frequencies cut off. I want it to sound as much like the bass, the instrument, as possible.
Yep.
So then we split, and this depends on the band. So if I'm doing a rock band, I'll split then into a bass amp. So
Yep.
I'll go straight into the Fender tool, or what was it?
So you're going from the Neve pre,
Yes.
splitting that.
No, sorry.
No,
I
splitting
split
before that.
I split
yeah,
before that.
so
I got
that's
into a
gone
splitter.
Neve into the converters.
Yes.
And
yeah.
interface.
So one of them is a DI bass.
Yep.
The splitter then goes to a distortion pedal of some sort.
Yep.
So usually that's a dark glass. So I'll go into, and I've got a series of dark glass pedals. I'll pick the one I want for that session, depending on how gnarly the bass sound, how much distortion I need.
Okay.
I'll pick a dark glass pedal, and so I've got DI and then another one into dark glass. That then has to go into its own preamp. So that'll go into another 1073, probably the JLM, because I
Yep.
like that hi-fi sound.
Yep.
So then I've got those two, and then the third one will be either, like I said before, I get a bass amp if I want a real amp,
Yep.
or I'll just pick like another pedal that does something that the dark glass doesn't.
Yep.
So like, say the dark glass is a really scooped, very distorted sound. I'll
Yeah.
pick something, maybe a fuzz, something big and
Yeah.
rounded,
Yeah.
something that gives me vibe.
Yep.
But that I couldn't have just that.
Yep.
So, and I might use it all the time. I might use it for certain sections. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and then sometimes I might split the bass tracks further in the door and create more of them. But that's basically how I capture is a split two or three times.
Three. Yeah.
Yeah. You?
Wow, that's crazy. I've been doing stuff still pretty traditional.
Yep.
So bass into like splitting the DI.
Yep.
And the DI will go to, once again, like a 1073 of some kind. And then maybe a 1073 EQ.
Yep. You doing any compression?
I'm doing less compression on bass.
Yep.
I'm doing most of it in post now.
Yeah.
I've noticed that it makes a difference from bass.
What do you mean makes a difference?
Sometimes just hitting the compressor too hard in tracking gives me less room to get the tonality right in stuff. I might do the DI, but I won't compress the amps.
You can back yourself into a corner if you compress on the way in.
Yeah,
because like,
I'm all for compressing on the way in on things like vocals, some drum stuff. Yeah, but bass is a tricky one for me. Definitely not on the speaker side of things, but the DI side, maybe I might do some.
I used to compress a lot on the way in, but I find that I get too excited when I'm tracking and I do too much.
Yeah.
And then I come back to mix and go, fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I've
what
lost
have I done?
a bit too much, a bit too much of the pick and the transient or something.
DI into the 1073?
1073 and maybe an EQ.
Yep.
And then I'll go the mics. So I'll split into an amp and then there'll be a dynamic and a condenser.
Yep.
So I like a U87 clone, or I don't have a U47 or anything like that.
You like U87 on bass?
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Ooh,
it's kind of cool.
Controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once again, going for something a bit cleaner and a bit tighter and not less woofy.
Yeah, you're right. It is heaps tighter in the low end. Yeah. It's funny actually because I usually use the U47 tube, which is hella dark.
Yeah.
But then it's too much low end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're just gonna eat into that because I was trying stuff like that. I tried other tube mics and stuff, and I just found them too much.
Yeah.
And I'm still finding that one too much too. It can be.
And that's what I mean. Miking a bass amp is sometimes just too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm using a dynamic. I always tend to favor the MD421.
Love it.
Yeah.
On bass.
The mid-range
fucking
is
love
just
it.
unbeatable.
So I created I created my own bass IRs.
Yeah.
So I can't really remember the process. It's if you just Google it, it's really simple. There's only two ways to do it.
Yep.
Basically you set the cab up, you put the mics on that you use, and then you send a blip like a white noise signal.
Yeah.
You understand
impulse,
it. Anyway, so I mic'd I got a Heritage 8x10 Ampeg cab.
Yeah.
Killer cab.
Man.
It's got a U47. I did a U47 tube RE20, dude. RE20.
Yeah,
if you can't afford a U47, RE20 sounds creepily similar.
Wow.
Really, really similar.
Wow. Wouldn't expect that.
And they're like a fucking fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
421 always.
Yeah.
You have to have a 421.
Yeah.
And if you don't know why, it's basically 421 is one of the ugliest mics you'll ever hear on its own. Mm-hmm. Back me up.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So they're fucking gross. But then if you put it in a mix or if you add it with another mic, it'll just add this cut. It'll let you get through the mix.
It has a bite in the top. It has this very big boost in the very wide boost in the tops where it adds the bite for things.
I feel like it's like in that
and the mid-range
4 to 6K region kind of thing, like that really spiky, ugly, but in a mix it'll poke through in a way that no other mic can.
Yep.
So and then
and it doesn't have the sizzle of the like when you get that real sizzly shit at 4K in a 57 that no one wants.
Gross. Well, you pull it out of the 57 and then you leave it in the 421.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And then, by the way, hot tip: lead guitars. Yeah. If you want like 80s style lead guitars or just lead guitars that cut through, that exact thing.
Yeah, right.
57, and then
give it the CLA treatment.
Yeah. Right. Mine to be boosted.
20 dB at 8K. It's not even a joke, eh? It's like real.
Got me.
So and then the last one is a 57, just because fuck you, Lachlan. Lachlan hates him.
Lachlan.
The guy who works here, Lachlan, he really has a thing about 57s. He doesn't like them.
He doesn't like them because Steve Albini doesn't like them.
He's wrong.
And then also, he can not like them.
Yeah,
he can not like them. And I don't like them sometimes.
Yeah.
And that, I had a 57 on a guitar cab recently. I find Marshall cabs and 57s do not go.
Nah.
They're just the wrong mic on the right.
If you're looking for everything out of a 57, you're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You're never going to get everything you need from a 57.
How often have you moved away from the 57 on a snare and then gone back to it and gone, I love that?
So many times.
Yeah, I've done that.
Many. The furthest I've gone is moving to a beta, like the beta version.
Yeah.
Which is just
I've seen you go in that circle a few times.
I know. I know. All it is I just get sick of it and I try a bunch of things and then I go, you know what? It has to be a 57.
Better.
Like, I try all this shit. I'm like, cool. Now I just missed what the 57 did.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So actually, I'm starting to veer away from answering this question, Daniel.
So what sounds sick?
Right. Yeah. So, no, you were in the middle of describing your process. So you.
Yeah. So then we've got the DI going into the Neve stuff. Yeah. Then the microphones. I've got a 421, U87 style clone thing that I've got that has a better low end response than a real U87 anyway.
Yeah.
And then they will go either to Neve style preamps and then into my API style EQs.
Right.
So they're the 560 style graphic EQs.
Love those things.
They're sick. From Z&H. The Z&H.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
No.
The graphics. Yeah, sorry, excuse me.
Not the BD50s, the 560s.
You've got the CAPI BT50s, which I love.
Yeah, they're sick too.
On guitar.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't use them enough on guitar.
Cool.
But they just give that tightness to everything as well.
Okay,
so that's mine.
If I'm going to answer Daniel's question, bass preamps, we've covered that, and making your bass sound rad. All right, I'm going to give away my bass processing, like my process.
For mixing
Fuck
in the box?
Yeah, here you go. You can have it. So, I mean, it's not anything new. Everyone does this, but this is just my version. And that anyone could do this at home. Say, let's pretend Daniel, all he has is a bass guitar, a Focusrite 202, and a DAW.
Hectic.
Which is what most people will have.
Yep.
And I think if you're trying recording bass amps at home, you're probably doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I think you should probably be just recording DI.
Yeah.
So
Get good at that first
100%.
at least. Yep.
All right. So if I'm at home and all I've got is a bass, a interface, and a DAW, and I want to make it rad, I will record the DI only once.
Yep.
Record the DI for the whole song, and then split that.
Yep.
So one will remain DI.
Yep.
The second one will be an amp sim because I'm guessing if you're working at home, that's what you've got. It doesn't even have to be an amp sim. If you've got a dark glass pedal, or if you've got even the dark glass, like this dark glass,
Like a pedal plug-in?
B7K, the plug-in. So
Ooh, how much is this?
It's,
It'd be cool.
it's €99. This is fantastic, man. This is how I got into dark glass. I got this and I was like, ooh, I need the real thing. The
pedal?
Like, because they're so. I'm going to lend you some shit. I'm going to give you home some dark glass stuff to take home with you. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Might
do some reamping later.
Yeah. So this is, I would have my DI. This would be my second sound.
Yep.
So this is going to do 80% of the work. This is
Yeah,
where the
I've
heavy
heard
lifting
this
is.
scooped sound that you get in your bass,
Yeah.
where you've got this really nice top
Yeah.
and then this tight bottom end in your bass, and I'm like, how is he doing that?
This
and
is
it's
how
not
I do
just
it.
EQ.
This is how I do it. So the DI just has the intelligibility. It has that familiarity.
detail and the detail.
Yes, the detail.
Yeah.
That mid-range sound that you're used to hearing, that 1K DI thing. This does the vibe. This is where sub comes from. This is where distortion and clank comes from.
Clank.
Yeah.
Dude.
Baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then and then the next one I might use, say, like, okay, if we're still in the DAW.
Yeah.
You can maybe do a third malt that is just a clean amp.
Yep.
Just
for
an
nice,
amp
clean,
just a
phase
simple,
coherent, low
just
end.
a simple clean.
Yep.
So what you've got is the DI, a clean amp, and then a dirty pedal. That's how I do it. So it's a parallel three-way split.
Yep.
So the DI is doing your main mid-range, the distortion's doing the big smile, and then the amp is filling the gaps that's left with everything else.
Cool.
And then that goes into a bus, and then you EQ that bus. So all of that, it's a little bit complicated, take a bit of work, but that's how you do it. And
This is sick.
Yeah.
You're blowing my mind, dude.
man,
Amazing.
I'll give you like a session. You can see exactly how I've done it if you want later on.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, cool. That answers Daniel's question.
Cheers, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's great.
Maybe do one more and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. There's some nerdy ones here from Sean about overuse for repair tools. I think that's a little bit over a lot of people's heads.
What's that repair tool?
Yeah, like Soothe and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like techie kind of gear.
We should get into that next episode maybe.
Yeah,
We'll save
fully,
that one.
fully.
I'd like to talk about Soothe and like other resonance treating things.
Well, yeah,
but that will go too deep.
I've
on
got a
that
lot more
episode.
questions here, but like you said, let's just do one more. Are we missing anything on your end? Okay,
Nah.
great. Cool.
We're maybe going to talk about the 1176 thing, but we don't have to because that's boring.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So I like this one. Josh Holiday. So Josh Holiday, he used to work in Newey as a producer. Now he works for Drumeo.
Whoa.
You know Drumeo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. He recorded Phil Collins recently.
Oh.
Yeah, man. I was fucking so
What?
sick. Yeah, fucking shout out, Josh. You're a legend.
Dude.
So he wants to know things current Mitta would have told young Mitta what being an engineer is really like. Ooh.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Hey.
Can we both have a go at
Yeah,
that
I
one?
want you to go first.
Nah.
No.
I got to think.
Yeah, that's a hard one, eh?
Oh, actually, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We're just gonna keep this down to a couple points each.
Yeah. Number one, don't be afraid of spending money on gear. Good gear.
Yeah, fuck
Buy
yeah.
good gear.
Yes,
Buy
yes.
good gear. Don't buy cheap gear. Don't fuck around with cheap
It's an
gear.
investment in yourself.
Absolutely.
And your business.
I've said this before with us, and I've said this before on my channel. We've got to get out of this mindset of, oh, that costs too much when it comes to what we spend our money on to be in this industry.
Yes.
You don't have to spend $1 million, but you have to buy the right tools. Think of it as a trade. We're all Aussies.
Yes.
And this goes for anyone overseas as well.
Yeah.
Get in the tradie mindset. What
Yes.
we do is like a tradesperson, and you need to buy the tools for your job. And that doesn't mean all hardware. It can be plugins,
Yes.
hardware, software.
It can be education.
It can be education.
Yeah.
Anything that you need to become
Yes.
a better engineer and get the tools. Get on the tools
Man,
and learn the tools.
I really like the way you link those two together. Like
Yeah.
your metaphor there is really good because you wouldn't show up as a carpenter without a fucking hammer.
Absolutely.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
People would laugh at you.
Yeah.
But it's very
And not just that.
common.
You need your ute or your truck.
Yeah, yep.
You know, and it needs to not be a piece of shit.
It needs to
and
not break down.
Not break down.
Yep.
It needs to have some trays on it, and it needs to have all your equipment in there,
Yes.
and you need to have all the tools.
Yes.
And you're not going to show up with dodgy, bloody Audi
Great analogy.
$5 tools.
Yep.
All right. You're going to show up and look fucking professional.
Yes.
Show up to this job, look professional.
Yes.
And that means all the stuff, all the bare bones stuff, like your mics, your pre's, your acoustic treatment. Make it professional.
Yes.
Get the right tools and get yourself educated and reach out to people and do an internship if you have to. If you can't afford the tools, go and intern somewhere and hear them and get your hands on them. And, you know, shout out to Hayden here. We've got assistant today and Lachlan, who you've had recently, how long did Lachlan do his internship with you?
Lachlan was meant to be 11, 12 months. I think he's coming up on 2 years and he just won't leave.
Yeah.
It's fucking great.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he refuses to go
Because
he
he's
wants
still
to learn.
learning.
He wants to learn more. He wants to be the best.
Yep.
He will absolutely have a career in audio.
Yep.
Because he is obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And that's what it
And
takes.
he will.
Yeah, yeah.
And he will.
absolutely.
And I've heard his mixes coming out now and he's killing it.
Yep.
Right? And that's what you got to do. And then get a mentor. Like if you're not interning somewhere, find someone that will mentor you to help you. And like we mentor each other.
Absolutely.
Like we give
Yep.
each other all kinds of advice. You saw it happen in this
Yep.
episode.
Fully.
You know, I'm going to pump Mitta for any advice I can get any day of the week, right? Like
Yep.
that's what we're going to do. And we trade off and just do that. And don't be afraid to network.
Yes.
And maybe the other thing is don't think that other engineers are your competition. They're not.
No. And
That's the other advice I would give to myself.
One thing I really respect about a lot of these young kids coming up now that wasn't really a thing when I was growing up because I was too protective of my ego. I was too fragile and too scared to be like to say I don't know something. Can you show me it? I'd be like, nah, fucking know everything. Fuck you. But I know a couple kids now that are just like, hey, can you help me? I don't understand this. I don't understand that. And to me, I'm just like, wow, they are mature enough to step away from themselves and go, I'm lacking here. Can you help? And like that only benefits everyone.
Yeah.
You know, at first I was like, oh, you know, you're going to show that you're weak and whatever, but who cares? Like you need to improve, you need to grow. Admitting that you don't know something is the first step. It's fucking
Absolutely.
really good.
Yeah.
Man, something I had like a little nostalgic moment here that doesn't really answer Josh's questions, but current thing young Mitta told, I would have told young Mitta is that you're gonna do it, man. You're gonna have a career. Like
that's sick.
Dude, I still sometimes I come in here and I'm like, fuck, man. I'm an audio engineer.
Yeah.
Like how many other people do I know that have that job?
Yeah.
Like I can name maybe 3. Like
Every day I walk into my studio, I'm like,
man,
sick.
yeah, I still get like
Yep.
I'll wake up and I'll be like, what do I have to do today? I have to EQ that guitar and I have to edit those drums. Fuck, how
Yeah.
cool, bro.
Yeah.
I still like, in case anyone's wondering, I still go, fuck yeah, man, this is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, things like practically, what have I told young Mitta? Oh man, that's a really hard question to answer. Actually, I think I think keep it sounds lame, but keep doing the things you're doing. Keep grinding the way you're doing. Because I
Don't
spent,
give up.
No, I spent
Yeah.
many years being obsessed with audio and doing nothing but thinking about and playing with audio, and that's the only reason I am here now is because I spent those years allowing that obsession to take over and just fucking doing it. So I think my only piece of advice to people who are trying to get where you and I are is just fucking do it all the time.
Yeah, do it all the time. Keep going and don't stop. I made the mistake of stopping a couple of times for different career options that came up. And you know what? The people that kept going got further.
Yep.
And it's just because you can't stop. You just got to make the choice. This is your career.
Yep.
And there is a career in it. Don't let anyone tell you that there's no career.
If you don't even have to be the best.
No.
You just need to work the hardest.
Yeah.
Man, I actually, that brings up a good
Make
one.
mistakes and learn.
I think I would have told myself that there are going to be years where either you're not that good at it,
Yep.
or it's just a grind. No one wants to work with you, or you know, or you're going to have your parents going, "What the fuck are you doing? Like,
yeah.
you're living in my house. You're not earning any money. You don't have a real job. You refuse to." Man, my parents
copped all that, yeah.
Dude, I didn't go to uni, and my parents were so disappointed. Like, I have an Asian father, and like, both of my parents are immigrants, so they both came here with educations. They both gave me a great education, and I chose not to use it.
Yeah.
They were so disappointed.
Yeah.
And so I had to push through that and be like, look, guys, this is real, you know, like this, I can make money from music. I can do this. And I just pushed through that. And if I had succumbed to what they were saying, and if I had got a real job, I wouldn't be here. So I think that's the biggest thing, is like, believe in yourself, back yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to push on to Lachlan now, my intern, is like, fucking back yourself, man. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you're the best or the worst. You're out here doing it every day.
And you will be the best.
How many other people are doing
You'll find your niche, and you
yeah.
will be the best in that
Yes.
if you keep working.
Yep.
And like, I'll agree to that from the other side, where I did back out a couple of times.
Yep.
And did other things, and went to other industries.
Yeah.
And it just served to be an exercise in futility, because I always was going to come back to
100%.
this.
I
I was meant to be in this.
I had an intern before Lachlan named Jacob. I've had a couple Jacobs now, but Jacob, I told him that the best piece of advice I ever heard. Have you heard the fable about that? I think it's the Greek myth where the leader of the army burns all the boats.
Yeah.
You've heard that one?
Yeah.
So basically, like, the short story of is that this guy, he was leading an army. He took them to a foreign shore, and in order to make them succeed, he burnt all their boats, so they couldn't get home.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, cunts, either you're gonna win this fucking war and kill everybody, or you're gonna die, and this is the end.
Yeah.
So I use that analogy a lot, and I tell people like Jacob was like, how am I gonna be an audio engineer? I'm like, quit your fucking job.
Yeah.
Quit your other job.
Yep.
So that you've got nothing to fall back on.
Yeah, I did this last year.
Dude, yeah, I know you did, and you had no choice, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
where are you now? You're fucking
Yeah.
killing it.
Yeah.
And there was the
Oh,
same as me, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I was working retail jobs, I was doing other things, and it was all distracting me from this.
Yeah.
And yes,
You might have to don't quit your day jobs.
fucking quit it.
Yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, there has to be a point where you take the plunge
Yes.
and you fully commit to it.
That's it.
And you'll know when it's the right time, but you have to have that as your thing.
I
and
can't
have
name
to.
you one audio engineer that has a side job.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
sorry, let me rephrase that. Audio engineer, I highly respect.
Yeah.
You know, there's no one who I look up to in the audio world who is making music who they also work in a clothing store. It just doesn't fucking happen.
because you have to spend your
100%.
time doing this.
You need to be thinking and doing it all the time. So I mean, this is extreme, and it might sound like it comes from a place of privilege, like, oh, you can afford to do that. I'm like, but man, there was many years there where I was struggling for a long time because I quit the things that were making me money to spend my energy and time developing something that in the future might make me money.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest hardest
It's an
thing.
investment of time.
It is.
And you'll get there.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people come and go from this space who want to do this job, but they can't hack that few years of it sucking. You know, and there's going to be years of you not making money and you not working with people, and that sucks. But you've got to get through it.
Look, man, you said I'm killing it now, like, and I'm doing things on YouTube. I got to go to NAMM this year. I got to do a bunch of cool stuff. But just to be transparent, I'm not making heaps of money yet.
No, I don't equate killing it with making money.
No,
to be clear,
no.
I'm in no way rich.
No.
This last month or two have been hard because the industry has been down and you know, no one's making quite as much. So don't misconstrue money with success. That's not
Owning
what I'm
your
talking
own
about.
business is the hardest thing you can do, and regular income is part of the non-regular income of working in this industry is part of it. And you need to learn to be clever and diversify and find other ways to make revenue and stuff. And that is part of this industry. So being in this industry, like, just to be clear, is not just about being an audio engineer 9 to 5, 7 days or 5 days a week or whatever. There are other things you're going to have to do, especially now in the climate we're in. You'll have to find other revenue streams as well. And that's just part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's enough.
Well, I think that's a good spot.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro.
Cheers.
Thanks, man.
Cool. Sick.